Jemma.
Hi Eva. I'm a research fellow and physio by background working at Curtin University, and my current role is as the study coordinator for the Oz-MTBI study. So that's the Australian Mild Traumatic Brain Injury Study, as I said, based at Curtin University.
So tell me, with my own experience of TBI, I can quite imagine that any experience of TBI could not be described as mild. Can you take me through the reasoning for that word?
Sure, of course.
Association.
Yeah, so mild is really just the classification in a medical sense, I guess, to describe those who have had a less severe brain injury, but it's really specifically, it's people who have only a brief window of loss of consciousness and PTA, so post-traumatic amnesia, which is so memory loss after their injury, for less than 24 hours. So anyone that has additional PTA, post-traumatic amnesia, beyond that period would be considered moderate to severe. And there's another measure called the Glasgow Coma Scale. So the Glasgow Coma Scale for mild TBI is above 13. So it's that sort of classification where it comes into the wording around the mild compared to moderate to severe.
I understand that because I was 4 on the Glasgow Coma Scale.
Very severe.
Yeah, it was quite severe.
Yeah.
But I guess I would expect, even though they have a mild traumatic brain injury, the effects that they have probably that the mildness is not an indication of the ongoing effects, would it not be?
Absolutely correct. And so for the majority of people that have a mild traumatic brain injury, or otherwise can be referred to as a concussion, they do recover within the first month, so sort of 2 to 4 weeks after their injury, they're back to their normal activities. However, we know that around 30% of people, sometimes some studies quoting up to 50%, these people do have a delayed recovery, and that can be a number of debilitating symptoms that continue for months or even years after an injury. And as you say, just because the word is mild, it doesn't mean that those symptoms are mild, and the hard part is they're often invisible as well. So it's not as obvious that these people might be experiencing a number of challenges. But what our research is trying to do is to better understand the people that recover or have that delayed recovery period. So there's ones who are the predictors of people who are more likely to have a prolonged or delayed recovery, and how we can better understand that to improve recovery, but also get more timely and specific help in those early stages to reduce the chances of those persistent symptoms.
Yeah. So a lot of those sorts of people, they're the sorts of people that you would see, say, wearing one of those sunflower lanyards and things like that, wouldn't they?
Potentially, yes. Yeah.
Can you let me know what brought you to the areas? Why were you drawn to study concussion? Why were you drawn to this area?
So my background is a physio, and as a physio I worked in rehabilitation for a number of years, and in moderate to severe brain injury, but also mild traumatic brain injury and serious orthopedic injury. So my clinical experience, I guess, from understanding and seeing firsthand how these people who on paper look like they should only have mild sort of impairments go on to have a number of long-term challenges, and there's so many different factors that contribute to that, to how their recovery might look. And so wanting to better understand exactly what that is, and also to help improve the healthcare services and the availability of care, and how that is then offered to these people to get more awareness and understanding of recovery, and then resources available to help improve outcomes after brain injury and mild TBI.
So you said there was a range of factors. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, of course. So a number of things influence the recovery trajectory. So things like the number of previous concussions that they may have had, their sort of emotional intelligence, their awareness of their own emotional intelligence, and kind of what we call self-efficacy. So their motivation and ability to sort of be proactive and have be intuitive and take initiative in their recovery as well. Then there's also pre-existing mental health factors. So if someone's had pre-existing mental health, so issues such as anxiety or depression, they might be more likely to have a poorer recovery or slower recovery, as well as behavioural or any previous neurological conditions, things like that, that may impact on their recovery trajectory.
So, have you always been in Curtin University? Were you born in Perth, or did you come to Curtin University from another place?
So I was born in Perth, but I did my physio studies there. But then I moved to Melbourne and spent 10 years working in rehabilitation, like as a physio in Melbourne, and did my PhD in Melbourne through Monash University, and then when I had kids, relocated back to Perth, and that's when I found my current team through Curtin University.
Yeah.
So yeah, was always sort of involved in injury and injury recovery and outcomes and that sort of thing. But then you moved back to Perth.
Yeah, you moved back to Perth, and then you decided to zero in or focus on TBI,
it sort of was partly. It was partly to do with the work that was available for me,
yes.
Where you can find a job and where you land.
Yeah.
And because of the stage, my life stage where I was at with young kids, it was a really good fit for me in terms of the team and the type of work that I was doing and the flexibility of that sort of research type of work. But particularly, now the more that I sort of work in the space, I get more invigorated and more passionate about it, and as I said, drawing on my clinical background as well. It's a great team to be a part of, and there's some really interesting research coming out of our group. Obviously my focus is mild TBI or concussion, but within our team based at Curtin, we've got lots of different research that's happening in both non-clinical, so animal models of injury and understanding how it looks and trialling different treatments, and then also into clinical type work when we're looking at recruiting participants to trial treatment techniques or better understanding predictors of injury or recovery, and looking at things like MRI as well as blood samples and doing analyses on the blood or saliva and those types of things as well. So there's a real range of work that's going on. It's an exciting
really
place
intense
to work.
I'd like to ask you, how important do you think a conference such as the National Brain Injury Australia Conference is for the sector in Australia, and the way that we are viewed on a global scale as well?
Oh, I think it's so important, and it's a fantastic conference, and it's great. I love that it brings together researchers as well as clinicians, as well as people with a lived experience of brain injury across the spectrum, so from mild and concussion to more moderate and severe brain injury, and people that are at different stages after their brain injury. It's really great to see, I think, from a peer support as well, for people to be able to kind of come together and find like-minded individuals. So, the research aside, it's a really excellent opportunity for people that have had a brain injury to sort of have their voices be heard in this forum, and we as researchers can learn so much from the experiences of people who have gone through that brain injury journey and their recovery, and it's such a crucial part of what we do to make sure that the research that we're doing is applicable and relevant, and is what people that sort of with a brain injury is perceived to be important and wish that they'd known, or their clinicians, or their treating physician, or whoever it might be, had known about at the time of their injury. So, and I think on a personal level, as a researcher, it's a fantastic opportunity to network and get to know other people involved in similar type of research, to then build your kind of relationships and partnerships, to then make sure that if you're doing similar research to someone else, then you can collaborate and share ideas. And so I think that's so important, and it's I think on an international level as well, it's great to sort of have Australia in the forefront of this type of conference as well. It's not something that's as commonly, it's usually one or the other. It's either academic and scientific, or it's for people with lived experience of brain injury or consumers.
There's a lot of siloing.
Yeah, exactly, and it's fantastic to have that overlap, and I think it's really important for the sector as a whole to continue to forge ahead with these type of partnerships.
Great. So tell me about the work that you're doing internationally. What sort of projects are you in touch?
Our current focus is really about the AusMTBR study is really about Australian looking to expand that into different countries in the future. But for now, what we're looking to do is use an app to better understand predictors of outcome, and so collecting information from people who have had a concussion, and it's for all sorts of concussions. So concussion obviously is common in sports, but it can be from things like falls or violence and car accidents, things like that as well. And so trying to understand those people who are more likely to have a delayed recovery, and using the app. So with the Head Check app is the app, and then our project is sort of an arm, a branch within that. Using that, it's got an inbuilt recovery program, so it offers not only the research, but it actually offers people a graded recovery program to help with their recovery journey.
Wow.
And then it sort of monitors your symptoms as well. So we're asking about your symptoms at different time points after your injury, and giving you that information in a real-time sort of personalised sense to help you continue to get back to your normal activities. So it's covers things like normal physical activity, so going for a walk or playing sport, as well as returning to study or returning to work, that sort of thing as well. So it's a fantastic resource for the community because it's all free to download.
Yes.
And so whether, we obviously from a research perspective, we love to have people join the study to get that information, so then we can look at it and better understand recovery after mild traumatic brain injury. But the program itself is an excellent resource for people who maybe first responders or on the sidelines of a sporting match, to kind of refer people to help outside of their other medical advice. And it's all been developed with the concussion guidelines that have come out, and it's all evidence-based and very thoroughly sort of checked. There's the actual app itself has been around for a number of years, but this is the first time it's been sort of revamped to include a research pathway.
So this was Curtin University developed this app?
We didn't develop the app. So the app was developed by the MCRI, the Melbourne Murdoch Children's Research Institute in Melbourne, in conjunction with the AFL and Curve Tomorrow, which is a software development company. And so we've just partnered with them to add the research arm to it. So Curtin are leading the project to add this research arm, so that we can actually collect the data and use it for research to analyse and better understand how recovery looks for people across the board.
And you're interested in people that have mild traumatic brain injury to become part of the study?
Yeah, so for anyone who's had a mild TBI or concussion in the last 14 days is able to participate in the study.
Right.
And then that way it helps you, as I said, it's got this built-in recovery program, so it gives you the activities to do to try and sort of get you back on track with your recovery as well.
So could you tell me a little bit more about the AusM TBI study and what you're hoping to get out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the AusM TBI study is a national project. We've got a number of different collaborators that we're working with across all sorts of fields, and the key premise is using an app. So we're trying to get data through the Head Check app, which is an existing app that's been around for a number of years, but we've added a research component to it. So now we're trying to collect this information for about people that have had concussion, and looking at the predictors of recovery after their injury. So by collecting this information through the app, it then takes people through a recovery program. So giving them information like a guided recovery program about getting back to activity. So things like physical activity or sport, return to study, return to work, that type of thing. And it does it in a personalised way. So it's guided based on their symptoms and their level of sort of symptom severity. It gives them a sense of whether they should progress with their different tasks or to just stay at that level, to help get them back on track and get their recovery to be sort of as normal, if you like, so in a normal sort of time frame that we would expect after a recovery, after a concussion.
After a concussion. So is this a multimodal approach? Is it say occupational therapy as well as physiotherapy? What modes have influenced this?
It's a
recovery.
Really large multidisciplinary team. So we've got OTs, physios, like sort of neuroscientists, researchers, brain injury researchers, rehabilitation staff from ED physicians, a whole different suite of people that have influenced how this project has come together. And so it's looking at using all the different expertise that we've got to guide the information that we're collecting on the predictors of recovery, and then helping us to then translate that into this recovery program that's available free to download for anyone that's had a concussion.
Great. Now this is just this is coming from a personal perspective here. So these recovery measures that are shared through the app, are any of them socially based, as in like getting out there and talking to people again, or is that not a focus in concussion?
In terms of the types of activities that are in as part of that recovery program? Yeah, so it's really more about activity based, but we do ask also about quality of life. So we're not only interested, the activities that form part of the recovery program are really about returning to physical activity and work and study and that type of thing. But then in the questions that we're asking, it's also, we're not only interested in their symptom severity, but we're asking about whether they're back at work, whether they're back doing their normal activities, and also what their quality of life is. And in that quality of life questionnaire, it asks about sort of social and emotional function as well as those other domains.
Thank you for coming and talking to us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Wonderful.
Thank you for the work that you're doing.
No, it's wonderful. Thanks.